And we're live. Yay. So I'm super excited. Thank you. I hope you're joining us again. Maybe you've been here for my last 3 interviews, but I'm really excited to conclude my Women's History Month interview series with my good friend, Michelle Figueroa, who started the Good News Movement. Michelle, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome. Glad to be here from sunny San Juan, Puerto Rico.
I am. So it is very sunny here in Boston. So I don't feel the need to be too jealous today, but like I certainly wish I was walking out to the beach after. So I'll just take a nice little walk around the neighborhood. So we talked about this. Like, I'm so happy for you and so proud of what you've accomplished with Good News Movement. You are amazing. So tell us a little bit about how you started and talk about Good News Movement in the context of the industry that you're in.
Yeah, so to give you a little kind of history and context, I've been a journalist for different networks for over 10 years, mostly for CNN in Spanish, thanks to my Colombian mom who taught me Spanish. But what I'd be noticing is when I was pitching my news stories, and a lot of times I always gravitated toward uplifting stories, a lot of times they'd get rejected. And I would feel so bad that I had this wonderful gem of a story and that I wanted to share with the world and I couldn't. And so I decided to take it into my own hands and become my own news director. So actually I had an ear infection in bed and I decided, you know what, I'm going to launch a good news platform for anyone who wants to send me good news, you know, any story that made them smile, something that even could have happened to their neighbor, to their classmate, and share it with me and I could amplify it to the world. So that was 2.5 years ago. I had an ear infection in bed. I was feeling miserable and I took a leap of faith, thankfully. And now I don't have to feel frustrated about any news story just being rejected and forgotten about. Because I had a story, for example, for anyone in Massachusetts, I don't know if you guys know Long Island in Boston Harbor. Well, on that island, there was a homeless shelter and it was really neat because the people in the homeless shelter were growing their own crops in the fields. And I was like, wow, this is an amazing story. And it got rejected. So I went to film it and nothing happened with that material. And I was like, no, this isn't going to happen. I want to share these stories. And so, yeah, the platform has been going strong for 2.5 years and we have 2.3 million followers.
So crazy. It's so amazing that you're just such a positive person. You're lying sick in bed and you're like, I'm going to focus on good news. That's what I need.
I was in so much pain. I think one of those moments where you're like, I can't physically do anything. So let me just kind of sit in my own thoughts. And it was funny because I had a family member tell me like, you're crazy, like you're wasting your time. Good thing I didn't listen to that family member. And I launched it. But it's been great because it's really an extension of what I love doing. And it uses, you know, my skill set of being a journalist and kind of being able to discern what's news and what should make the cut. And so, yeah, it's been a great journey and really amazing. I get messages like every 5 minutes or less from people from all corners of the world and many languages, which some I know, thankfully, others I don't. And I ask for a translator, but it's been a wonderful project.
That's so cool. And it's so reflective of who you are. So I love that in business, like you have an opportunity to really, to really like be yourself, to present what you do in like the most authentic way. So that is so cool. Okay. So back when you were lying in bed and you were sick and not listening to your family member, and I can relate to that. You told me and JC that it was a good idea to do what we were doing. Thankfully, they weren't so vocally opposed, but what's one thing now that you would go back and tell yourself?
Well, it's interesting because I started the project and I didn't have lofty expectations. So I think that changes it for me. I've kind of stayed true to my mission the whole time. And I guess one thing I could tell other people that are trying to start a venture, they're entrepreneurs, is sometimes, you know, of course you get ideas from other business models, but I think you should always stay true to yourself, because once you start kind of bending and trying to be like someone else, then you lose your valuable identity, which like there's only one you in the world. So don't try to be someone else. And I know it's maybe cliche, but I think that's been true without. And I think that's been one of the biggest keys to our success, is just always being very, you know, in the way we word things and in the kind of stories we choose. I think staying true to yourself and not getting discouraged too. I heard this analogy of, it's like if you have a flat tire, well, you're not going to give up on your car. There are
Yeah.
many times that I think all of us have failed. Sometimes you see these successful people and you don't see their stories of failure. I've been live on air on TV and screwed up a number in the stock market. And in the moment, it feels like the world's crashing down on you. But at the same time, you just realize it's all about failure and overcoming that failure. And even today, I got rejected for a voiceover audition. And, it's life. And I think really what differentiates the people that are successful are the ones that get back up, and keep on trying. And despite what anyone says, I think we have to kind of remember that we define ourselves, not other people. So just because someone rejects us or we fail one time, that doesn't really define us. Everyone's been on a journey of ups and downs.
Yeah, I think that authenticity is so critical to being successful. Like you said, staying true to who you are. Was there a time that can you think of a time where you were faced with that challenge where you had to say no or really commit to staying on the path that you wanted to be on?
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of times with business partners, people that maybe want to advertise on our page, and sometimes I think you have to make the decision of a short time loss for a long time win, right? I think there have been advertisers that have a lot of money, but it doesn't really align with our mission or our page. And we've had to step away just because I think it's just not worth it. It's not worth kind of giving up who you are. And no matter what business or sector you're in, you're going to have those moments where something's like, oh, that seems so appealing short term, but in the long term, it's just not worth it. So definitely we've discovered those moments. And yeah, you just have to kind of make the decision and kind of sit down and outweigh the pros and the cons. But overall, kind of getting back to the journey of taking my leap of faith with the page, I think it's always kind of scary to take risks, but I think ultimately, what is more dangerous, risking and kind of taking the action or not taking action. And I think not taking action is a bigger risk. So I came at a good time when there was a lot of appetite for good news. During the pandemic, oh my gosh, it was just, people were like, give me some light. And so during the pandemic, our page doubled a year ago, went from 500,000 to 1 million in 1 month, because people really were like, what's going on? Is anyone, how are people surviving this? And so I think there was a big need for good news. And still, I mean, if people kind of tell me, keep going, I get that every day, we need this. So I'm going to keep going. That's the plan.
That's been such an interesting theme for most everybody that I've talked about, actually, is 2020. I mean, oh my God, it sucks so much, but there have been such interesting opportunities and pivotal, successful path moments that have come out of it, especially for a lot of entrepreneurs, is being accessible and adaptable was really crucial to getting to where we are today, making it through, but not just making it through, thriving on the other side. So
right. Absolutely. Yeah. And the same news stories, it's funny because it's uplifting other people, but I also find myself happy crying. People are what's your biggest reward? And I'm just the material, the stories that I'm sharing that otherwise might not make news. Some of the stories I'm sharing, they'll show up on our page, and then nights later, they'll show up on the nightly news. And I know all the producers are, on my page looking for material. And I think that's great. I think the more positive there can be in the news industry, the better we're going to all be,
I love seeing all the kindness and the philanthropy for others. But some of my favorites are definitely just people dancing, the random dance moments caught on camera have been so much fun for me.
Yeah. It's the simple moments, it doesn't take much to do good or to be happy. So,
you 2.3 million followers is a lot. And it might seem like you've got this whole media support system behind you. I know that you don't, but I do know that you don't do it by yourself. So no matter the size of your business, nobody can do everything alone. We've talked about one consistent theme of having a support system. So when did you decide that it was time to begin, if not hiring, outsourcing or expanding kind of your network?
Well, it's interesting because even though I do my own reporting, I quickly started to find out that there were a lot of people that wanted to share their stories. So I think people love the fact that they're not just like passive followers on my page, but they play an active role. So, I've been asked before in interviews, how many people on your team? And I say millions. These people really are part of the movement. And it's why I called it Good News Movement, because, everyone is part of something that's bigger than themselves. And I think this gives them a way to be kind of just bigger than themselves and do good and show the world good. And it's also, a vehicle for change. I think people see something inspiring on my page and they're like, oh, I could do that too. I can have that impact. So I think there's been a lot of positivity that's come out of it. And, I think it'll just continue to grow.
I think it's cool because we talked about how somebody might be inspired, like maybe they see something on your page and they want to, like, how can I get featured on your page? And I know that it is kind of at that level, like a superficial intention, like I want that too, but it takes work. Like it's work to be kind, to like consciously be kind, to do good things for others. Like that takes an active commitment. And so if that is what comes out of this, I think that that's like the ground level of starting to really initiate change. Like be kind to others, help other people. And even if like initially you're doing it to gratify yourself, eventually it just becomes systemic. It is a movement, like you said, and it really does influence like a broader impact.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that, because some people will say, oh, why did the person record it? They're doing it for the gram. And maybe some of them are. And I can kind of see through the ones that are really doing it for the gram. And then the ones that are like, hey, I'm going to record this, but it's going to inspire other people. Like there was one guy giving money to a street vendor so he could go home, because the street vendor was in his 70s. And then after I posted a story about that, I got people DMing me saying, hey, I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm like, if you balance out the positive, negative, I'm like, record yourself all you want, because I think it ultimately is doing good. That person got to go home and rest for the rest of the day. And so I'm all for it, and especially we're a very visual, humans are very visual. We want to see things. So it's much easier to see something and be inspired than to read it. So I think it's great. I think people should keep on recording themselves, as long as, they are. And like I said, I can kind of see through people that just want to become like influencers and just, So, but I think it's great. I mean, most 99.9% of the comment section is positive, which is amazing.
I love that you have the opportunity to like own that. And you're like, this is the place for good news. Like, I don't deserve hate here.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I'm not taking any of the negativity. I don't engage with it. And I recommend other people, if they have a business that's online, there's too much to lose with engaging, not only your time, which is most important, but there's not much to gain. Sometimes they're literally trolls creating accounts and going into their basement. So just ignore the negativity, focus on the positive.
It's such good advice. And like you said, it's 99% positive, but people, like, it's just your natural inclination to focus on that 1% that's negative. But why are you doing that? Like 99% of people are happy. That is that's a huge win. That's so successful. But like, it takes work again to block out that 1%.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm human. Sometimes I'll want to. And then my husband's like, what are you doing? Stop yourself. And it's a bigger analogy for life, right? I had, there's a psychiatrist friend who said, it's like ordering room service and you get the main meal and the salad, and the main meal is delicious, but you're like, this salad is awful. And that's all you're talking about. It's like, well, you had an amazing main meal. So I had a good main meal. I'm not going to focus on the side dishes.
Focus on the 99% positive. Definitely.
Yeah. That's it.
Okay. So was there ever a time, either in like your good news path or like even just in your professional career, where you felt like you were in over your head or you didn't belong? And how did you overcome that?
Thankfully, not during this work experience. In the past, I mean, I've had to advocate for myself. People thinking, like, I worked in TV ad sales, and I remember someone telling me, I don't think you're ready to present at an ad agency. And I was kind of like, what are you talking about? So yeah, I had to stand up for myself, and it's not fun or easy, but ultimately I think, if you do things and say things in a nice way, I think people, you'll get the response you want. I think it can be hard, but I've always, I guess I was raised in a home that told me, stick up for yourself, but do it in a nice way. I think there's you get more with a spoonful of sugar than vinegar or something. I don't know, lost in translation. But anyway, the point is, if you're kind to people, when you give them the feedback, they'll listen to you a lot more than if you just kind of bark back at them.
I think we talk about that a lot. We do internal training programs at Trillium Leadership Development, but just in general, we've got what we call a training called Crucial Conversations. And so it's about how to talk about something. Maybe that's difficult, or maybe just a different opinion. And there's always a nice way to say something. There's always a nice way to put it and a mean way. And there's never a reason to be mean. It's just not.
Totally. And I actually like when people disagree. If I'm on my page and people disagree with something, I actually welcome that. I want to hear other opinions that aren't my own or similar to my own. So as long as people are nice about it, I think you can get your point across.
Okay. So so we're going to switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit about being a woman. And again, said this a number of times, we're leaning into this. Yes, this is Women's History Month, and it is unfortunate that we have to have a month to acknowledge the value of women in our society. But how do you think being a woman in your industry impacts your experience?
Yeah, I think everything, every part of who we are, being a woman, being raised in a Latina household, the people we surround ourselves with, everything has an impact for sure. And like I said, I was told, I wasn't ready for some presentation, and maybe I wasn't given some accounts by my boss when I was doing TV ad sales. And so I've had to really speak up. And luckily it hasn't been a barrier for me. Ultimately, now I'm my own boss. So any barrier I have is a barrier I set on myself, a mental barrier. But luckily, I've been very fortunate through my career. And I think I've had great guardian angels along the way. I've dealt with everything like we all have in the workplace, but I've definitely met guardian angels that have helped me and been my support system.
That's so nice to hear how you put it. Has your cultural heritage influenced your business strategy at all?
Luckily, because I'm bilingual and can understand some other Romance languages, it's helped open up a whole new market for me in Spain and Latin America. And the Latin culture is a very happy culture, very uplifting. So I guess I should credit in part to who I am as a person. My mom's like, oh, it's all because you're half Colombian. My dad's like, no, it's the Irish Swedish. So I don't know, but I think definitely it's helpful to have another worldview and to see how other people live life, enjoy life, what they consider good news in their country. And someday when the pandemic's over, I'd love to just travel more around the world and do stories from, on location and show, what's good news here in each country. And so, I'm constantly looking which countries are opening up and kind of seeing the status of how everyone's doing in each country, because I'm a little stir crazy.
Well, I know, who isn't, right? But I think also you mentioned when we started that you made the decision to make this a bilingual channel. So I think that is incredible that you automatically opened up your platform, you expanded your reach and your appeal by reaching people where they are, which is amazing.
Yeah. And the reason why I did Instagram is because people are on their phone 4 or 5 hours a day. It's funny because people say you should have a TV channel. And I'm like, well, people aren't really there as much anymore. They're on their phone. So why not reach them where they are? And sometimes, with my phone, it's always next to me, but I have to be like, okay, this is work time and this is family time, because it's now with cell phones and having the tech, you must know this. There's no line of separation. Sometimes at night you're getting work messages and it's I have to make a concerted effort to just separate those two worlds.
Yeah, it's so hard, especially having your husband support you too. Like it is blurry, and everybody knows this now from the pandemic. Like being home, working at home, having your family home, like it's all blurred, and it does. Again, it takes work, which
Yeah.
leads me actually great segue to my final official question. And then
Final. Oh, we just got started.
your questions. I know. So Randy Zuckerberg defines what she calls the entrepreneur's dilemma. And I've said this, like, I think this applies to really any working professional generally. But she says that you can only have three of life's basic core needs, being work, family, fitness or wellness, sleep, and friends. So do you agree with that? Do you ascribe to that? And if so, which would you prioritize?
Well, I think sleep is essential. Like you'll get two different human beings. Like you'll get version 1.0 if I'm well slept. If I do not sleep well, it has a direct effect on my decision making, relationships. I mean, I think that's definitely an essential, which I recommend everyone get a good amount of sleep. It really does matter. I mean, with all ages. But yeah, that's essential. In terms of work-life balance, right? It's like you need sleep. You need to sleep.
Yeah.
Work-life balance, I think that they're not really opposing forces. I mean, I guess for some people they could see it as opposing forces if they have like a strict 9 to 5. But for me, I try to just be really present in what I'm doing. And, obviously I chose a job where I can select my hours, but I think, if people prioritize, for example, family life, maybe they just had a baby, then even though they find their dream job, maybe it's not so dreamy if they have to give up something they prioritize more.
Yeah.
So I think it's very individual, but I really try, and sometimes I fail at it, but try to be present if I'm working. I'm trying to be really efficient and get stuff done. So that when it's family time, I'm totally disconnecting from my phone. And yeah, that might mean that I'm a couple hours late to a story, but that's a decision I make, because I value my family.
Yeah, that's so important. And I've said this before, but that's probably one of the hardest things for me is like being 100% present when everything is blurred. It's all connected. We're all sharing the same space. And like turning one thing off to be 100% focused on another is just like, that's my ongoing struggle.
Yeah, it's really tough, but worthwhile in the end. And I remember actually being offered a promotion and they couldn't believe, they're like, how could you not want to accept a promotion? And I'm like, because that's a life that I don't want right now. My son was young and so I made that choice. And so, yeah, it's just individual. It comes down to how much weight we put on each item in our lives. And I do need to put more weight into the fitness aspect because that gets no love. That will get some love at some point. Now that it's nice.
When you get back.
Yeah. Yes, you will be my perfect. Because for people that don't know, Esther and I know each other from our kids went to preschool together, and she was, amazing fitness, physical therapy, right? That was your profession, and just very inspiring. Like you just felt like you wanted to work out after you talked to Esther. So,
well, hopefully to make you feel guilty. Hopefully it was like true inspiration. But
totally,
we'll work out together when we get back.
Yes, that sounds great.
Okay. So we've got a couple questions here. I want to make sure we get to. So from Amy W. Michelle, for you, where do you see Good News Movement going next? Do you see expanding, books, TV?
Well, yes, I'm actually working on a book. I guess I'm not sure if I'm contractually allowed to give more information. I'll have to check that. But anyway, that's in the works. So finally, I released my final manuscript. So I'll have more news for this amazing Trillium crew later this year. And so I'm open. I have experience in film and TV. So there are different kind of branches this could go out and into a podcast format, different formats. So I'm exploring those, and for now, just kind of steadily, head down, working hard, trying to grow it. And it's exciting every time that I'm not too obsessed with the numbers. Obviously, they matter because that's our metrics. But it is nice to know, oh wow, this video or this good deed impacted all these people, like 1 million, 2 million people. I think the North Miami police, they wrote a comment like, thanks to Good News Movement, you know, a lot of people could see us. They were swearing in this little boy who has cancer, and his last, like his wish was to become an officer. So it's just nice to have that impact, you know, to make a difference, however little it is, you know, with the page. And I think, you know, there is that effect, the butterfly effect, where people, you know, maybe are inspired to do something similar, or go visit Children's Hospital or what have you. So it's nice.
And you talked about maybe like, again, once you can, starting to travel around the world, which I think opens like a million new channels.
Yeah, I won't be off on an airplane. I'll be on the, I'll get the like special travelers. Well, hopefully I can get an airline that's a partner, and that would be awesome if they want to fly in.
Anyone who's got a hookup out there.
Yeah, anyone. Write me, DM me, slide into the DMs.
All right, another question. Michelle discussed traveling around the world post-pandemic. What's next for me? Oh, this one's for me. What's next for me? Oh my God, I can't wait to get back to traveling. When JC and I started, we were like heads down and again, like building our family and building the brewery. But it wasn't until, I actually don't even remember the year because like time is just irrelevant when you're starting a business. But we were invited to a festival. I think it was when we were selected as one of Vape Beer's best when they first started that program, and we went to a festival where we met a bunch of other brewers who were also awarded Rate Beer's Best, and it was really eye-opening for us to recognize that JC and I were not alone in this venture, that like people understood what we were doing. They had an appreciation, you know, for craft beer and for quality and for being entrepreneurs and for having families. And so that was eye-opening to us. And so that's when we started collaborating with these new friends that we made and started traveling around the world. So I personally can't wait to, Michelle, I might just like tag along with you. Maybe
we'll go together.
We'll companion fly around the world. I'll find cool breweries. You'll find the good news there. But that's what I hope on our horizon. I keep telling JC, like I myself am stir crazy and I cannot wait to get back out. So
yeah, I don't think anyone will have anything to complain about with good news and beer together. I mean, what could be better in life than those two things?
Yeah, that's all I want. I want to just like talk about positive things. I want to spend time with friends. I want to travel, and I want to have a great beer.
Yeah. It's funny. I have a coworker that when he found out that I was friends with the owners of Trillium, he's like, "You're kidding." He was just so in awe. He's like, "I love that beer. I'll travel no matter how long." And I actually think he's watching right now. So hi, Josh. So you guys have done a remarkable job. I mean, you have such a loyal following, and people were so impressed when I told them I was going to do this live. So I'm really happy for you guys, and it's awesome. Just keep growing, keep doing your thing because it's working and people love it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate it. And thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited. We've already announced our reopening plans. So we're reopening 3 of our locations this coming week. It's incredible. I can't wait. Like when you're back, we'll have beers, and whether it's post-hike, post-workout, or just scrap it all and we just do a little something. We'll do that.
I love it.
But for everyone who's been watching, thank you so much. I hope you've enjoyed this series. Like this has been so much fun for me talking to both my friends who are entrepreneurs, but also meeting like really incredible and inspiring new women. And so I hope that it has inspired any of you who have any entrepreneurial passions or dreams. It's been really great to hear different perspectives on some of the same questions, topics, issues, and challenges. And so I am accessible. I know Michelle gets a message every 5 minutes, but if you've got additional questions for me, I'll be available on Instagram DM for the next 30 minutes if you want to ask any questions that we didn't get to here. But also follow Good News Movement. It really is like such a bright spot in my day.
Thank you.
And yeah, and hopefully, if you've got any other suggestions for content that you want to see from us, from Trillium, or like maybe you're generating some good news of your own, send that in to us and send it to Michelle. So thanks again, everybody. Michelle, thank you so much, and I'll see you soon.
It was fun. All right, bye. Thanks,
Cheers.
Esther.